supermarket, and a festively themed GB News goodie bag, and we'll get it all to you in time for the big day. For a chance to win, text WIN to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text BONUS to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge, or post your name and number to GB 17 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 28th of November. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Wow, get ready for the Late Show Live with the force of nature that is Bev Turner. And Bev, I wonder if you're going to be up close and personal with Prince Andrew soon, with want of a better phrase.
That's not the most appealing suggestion you've ever given me, Patrick. But of course, what you're talking about is the fact that he's been told he has to get to America, he has to go to Congress, and he has to tell them everything he knows about Epstein because it is the right thing to do for the victims. Will he come out here and do it? Do you think he will, Patrick?
No.
Moving on, next item. You know what, I'll just go down there tomorrow. I'll have a word with him and say, listen, I hate to tell you, but I don't think our former prince is actually going to come along. Because he's shown no inclination whatsoever to talk about what he saw.
The only thing I will say is this, though, right, which is that now I don't really think he's got anything to lose, has he? He's not a prince anymore. I don't know what's going on with the properties. Is that weird relationship he had with his ex-wife is now also finished. So he's kind of got nothing. So But maybe it's in his interest to just go, all right, screw it, I'll go. Things can only get better. But, I mean, that might not be true.
I don't think so. I like your thinking, Patrick. And we've also got some bombshell new research poll into how Britain feels at the moment, particularly in relation to migration. So stay with us, everybody. See you tomorrow, Patrick. This is The Late Show Live. On The Late Show Live tonight.
We risk becoming an island of strangers, not a nation that walks forward together.
Breaking tonight, Britain is more divided than ever, with tensions between migrants and British-born citizens reaching record highs.
And as that bombshell news emerges, I'm here in Birmingham outside Villa Park, where protests have taken place ahead of Villa's match with Maccabi Tel Aviv. We've been asking Villa fans whether they think the country is divided.
Congress in America, as you know, is sitting on hundreds of thousands of documents, so more and more is coming.
Andrew summoned Congress here in Washington, D.C. has called on the former Duke to testify and explain his links to convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. We'll bring you the exclusive reaction of President Trump to this scandal, plus this.
Malcolm Mystery, who was involved in the research, says that the aged, pregnant people, women, and those with pre-existing health conditions.
Martin Croxall it is, isn't it? You work for the BBC. You cannot be saying pregnant women on the BBC. That sort of honesty is only reserved for GB News, remember? Now, today the BBC says she broke impartiality rules over that script correction. That is disgusting. Also, tonight, of course, I'm sure you know by now, but we are live in Washington, just yards from the White House. We're bringing you the stories that America is talking about and that matter to Britain too, including this.
Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter.
To Nigeria, the president says that Christian blood is being spilled by Islamist extremists and he's demanding action. We're going to speak to the group who've been on the front line of this fight also tonight.
I was referring to Ozempic or the fat loss drug.
So those are going to be $150 out of pocket for Americans?
They'll be much lower.
Buckle up, America is tightening its belt, and this time, unlike in Britain, it's not because of the economy. Instead, President Trump has unveiled plans to slash the cost of weight loss drugs.
Oh, £275? Yes! You cheated. You cheated, Jenny, you're a cheat.
They don't make comedy like that anymore, do they? Also on the show tonight.
We always have steak on Thursday.
Mother, you haven't put enough sugar in this cocoa. Hiya, Wall. What's wrong with that? There's a woman 3 doors down talks to a microwave. I think sex is like supermarkets. Just a lot of pushing and shoving, and you still come out with very little at the end.
It was an iconic character in a memorable film. She talked to the wall and the whole world listened. Shirley Valentine star Pauline Collins has died at the age of 85. I'm Bev Turner. This is The Late Show Live, and our night is just getting started. Breaking tonight, this very minute, in fact, Britain is not just divided, it's at war with itself.
Whenever I get gloomy with the state of the world, I think about the arrivals gate at Heathrow Airport. General opinion's starting to make out that we live in a world of hatred and greed. But I don't see that. Seems to me that love is everywhere. Often it's not particularly dignified or newsworthy, but it's always there.
That was then, in 2003, back when Heathrow meant hugs. Now it's more likely to spark a row about borders than warm hearts. Well, tonight, half of Britain says that our culture is changing too fast. With a bombshell new poll, though surprisingly, unsurprising perhaps, showing that 86% of us believe that there is tension between immigrants and British-born Brits. It's a King's College Ipsos poll. Half want the UK back to the way it used to be, and fewer than half say they're proud of it at all. But here's the truth. People haven't stopped loving Britain. They've just been told they're not allowed to show it. The nation voted for Brexit to take back control, not to take the blame.
A one-nation experiment in open borders, conducted on a country that voted for control. Well, no more. Today, this Labour government is shutting down the lab. The experiment is over. We will deliver what you've asked for time and again, and we will take back control of our borders.
Still, the same elites sneer at patriotism and mistake pride for prejudice. And tonight, a clear example of the tensions that exist in Britain in 2025. In Birmingham, police have arrested 6 people at the Aston Villa versus Maccabi Tel Aviv football match.
Every match that the barbaric Israeli establishment or their teams are at, we will be at. Takbir! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar!
That is unimaginable just a couple of decades ago. That is Britain. A football game turned into a flashpoint for global politics from thousands of miles away. Israeli fans were banned, of course, from attending that football match over concerns for their safety. Pro-Palestinian protesters outside Villa Park chanted, there was tension and even racist abuse. Once upon a time, sport brought us together. And now it's just another front line in a divided country. Let's get more with GB News presenter Josh Howie, who was at the game in Birmingham. Josh, good evening. Thank you very much for joining me. You were wearing your Star of David at the football match, we can see there. How was it tonight, Josh? What was the atmosphere like?
Well, it was very surreal because for our safety, there were hundreds of police officers that were escorting us. And I'm very grateful that they were there because there were groups of young men who were gathering and who would, you could see had to be would shout things at us and then the police would step in. So yeah, if it hadn't been for the police, I think we would have been in real trouble. I didn't actually get to go to the match. I'm not a football fan, but I just felt that the banning of Israelis or of Jewish fans because of the authorities kind of being ad hoc to capitulating to Islamist extremists isn't something that we should stand for as British people or as Jewish people.
So just to remind people, Josh, may not be familiar with it, this match between Tel Aviv and in an Israeli club in an area that is highly populated with Muslims was deemed too dangerous for Israeli fans to travel to go and see the match. Did many of them travel to go, or was it mainly other people from the UK like you?
It was a couple of Israelis went, literally a handful who did manage to sneak in because Aston Villa made it very difficult for anybody to buy tickets. They made a restriction where you could only buy a ticket if you had previously bought Aston Villa tickets. So that, and then the Board of Deputies of British Jews, they tried to get 500 tickets just for British Jewish fans to be able to go, where we could have just gone in straight in on coaches. There would have been no problems at all. Yet that was also run down. So in the end, that couldn't happen. So I know a few people did manage to sneak in and enjoy the match. Like I said, I'm not a football fan. I went as someone who felt like it was important to take a stand against the racist mob of Islamists.
Yeah, I find it's so remarkable, this story, when you actually stop to think about what's happened, that Jews are being told, don't go and watch football, Josh. It should be sport. It should be apolitical. It should be fun. It should be escapism from the grind of daily life and the politics news cycle. How do we change it? How does anybody move away from this? Or maybe we just can't now. Maybe we just can't change it. There's a ceasefire.
No, I think we can, because I believe that there is the silent majority out there. I believe that this country, that the majority of people in this country know what being British is about in terms of fairness and in terms of tolerance. But what's happened is that we've had the tolerance of the intolerant, and that has been what's been going on over the last few years. And in the case of the police, and like I said, I'm very grateful to the police. If they hadn't been there, frankly, I would have been beaten up or stabbed or anything. So I'm grateful to those frontline officers. But what you've seen higher above is where it's easier for the police to capitulate to the mob and to the extremists within the Muslim community than to take a stand for British values. And when those very vocal groups try and were successful in banning the Israeli fans and the Jewish fans, instead, the West Midlands Police and the council should have stood up to them and said, no, that's not who we are about as a country. And they didn't do that.
Yeah, damn right. I couldn't agree more. Josh Howie, thank you so much for joining us. I'm sure it was an emotional night in many ways. Let's get the take of contributor to GB News, Charlie Downs, who joins me now to look at this survey. Charlie, 86% of people in the UK saying there's tension between immigrants and British-born people. In 2023, that was only 74%, and 84% of people feel that the UK is generally divided. That's up from 74%. Why, Charlie? Why do we feel like this?
Well, I think there's a number of things we have to unpack here. The first thing to say is this comes off the back of polling from the Financial Times last week, which indicated that upwards of 80% of the British, it was the British right specifically, so not necessarily the British public at large, but conservative-minded people in this country feel concerned about loss of national identity as a result of mass immigration, felt that the decline of the white population was a concern, felt that the speaking of foreign languages in public spaces was a concern, and similarly a threat to a sense of cohesion in the country. And it's because the issue of immigration is far and away the most salient one for most ordinary people at this point. And there's a number of reasons for that. One is that it is simply observable in one's day-to-day life. If one lives in a, even suburban area of this country, it is noticeable that people from all over the world now live in our communities. And it is also a function of the fact that we are seeing increasing numbers of crimes committed by these people. I mean, in the last week alone, Bev, as you know, we've had atrocious crimes committed in this country. The murder of Wayne Broadhurst in Uxbridge, for instance, by a 22-year-old Afghan, allegedly, contempt of court and so on. We won't go into that. But, this was not an English guy, let's say that. And then there was the various other horrible things that have happened. And not just this week, but also the grooming gangs, which have dominated headlines this year. And the ongoing crisis at the Channel. And so I think immigration is by far the most pressing issue for a lot of people. And I think it's purely, because of the fact that it is a failed project. And this is why this polling today is so unsurprising to me.
Let's say hello to my panel this evening and bring them into this debate. I've got Niall Gardner here, former aide to Margaret Thatcher, and Angelina McAhey, journalist and broadcaster. Niall, if I can come to you as our Brit, who lives here in America and obviously spent many years in the UK, 48% say they want Britain to be the way it used to be in that poll. What do they mean?
Well, I think it's clear what they mean, actually. They want the restoration of traditional British values, standards, British way of life. I think the mass migration into the UK has been a complete disaster, frankly, and the levels of migration into Britain today are absolutely unacceptable. Most British people have had enough, frankly. And multiculturalism, advanced, of course, by liberal politicians in Britain for many decades, has been a huge failure. It has resulted in rising tensions within society, rising levels of crime and disorder, and as we saw at the Aston Villa game this evening, horrible scenes actually of Islamist extremists hurling racist abuse, anti-Semitic abuse at those attending the game. And these are horrific scenes to see in the heart of Britain today. and the next British government has to take real action, because the Labour government right now under Keir Starmer is doing absolutely nothing at all. In fact, I think they're a big part of the problem. And the next government, likely to be headed by Nigel Farage and Reform, has to take immediate action to secure Britain's borders, but also to deal, of course, with the the massive existing problems here in the United Kingdom. These have to be addressed, and the British people, rightly, I think, have had enough.
So Keir Starmer, of course, would say that he has done what he can to protect Jewish people. Angelina, when you look at those pictures of the UK, you are, of course, an American living in America. Is there any parallels to be drawn? Are there any parallels to be drawn between there and the US in terms of political, racial, religious tension? It feels to me, maybe it's just because we're in Washington, that the tensions here are very much political. It's either you love Donald Trump and the Republicans or you hate him. But do you see that sort of international conflict being brought to the streets of America?
Yeah, I'm seeing it right now, just even in these pictures. Like, how do we identify a UK national from a non-UK national? In those pictures, I'm seeing many white-looking people. So are those UK nationals or are they foreigners? It's not really clear. And also, I think the immigration issue versus the domestic freedom of speech issue are a bit different here. And in America, we're not like the UK. I know you can openly be a Nazi in America, and I don't think that is the case in the UK. So in terms of this saying, anti-Semitic chants, again, Nazis in America do that all the time. So it's a lot more normal here in America to see that kind of hateful speech, because it is protected by the First Amendment. Whether you like it or not, it's protected by the First Amendment. Of course, violence or harm towards another person is not protected, and those people should be arrested. But any kind of speech is protected, whether you like it or not. So that, I know that's not the case in the UK. There are a bit of differences there.
Fewer than half of the people, Charlie, in this survey, 46%, said they feel proud of the UK. That's down 10% from 5 years ago. What is happening there? Why don't we feel proud of the country?
Well, this is especially the case among people in my kind of age group. I had a conversation with a young guy called Elliot Buick recently. He has a podcast, and he's, a very ordinary young guy, lives in Britain, was born and raised in Britain. But he said this to me. He said that he and his friends don't feel proud to be British, and it's because Britain's kind of in a bit of an embarrassing state, in the modern day. And when I travel, I often, when I tell people that I'm from Britain, their first response will be my condolences. Their first response will be, it's a shame to see what's happening to your country. And I think this is largely the reason that people don't feel proud to be British. It's because of the British government. And what I say to people who say that is, look, we are not our government. I think we should still absolutely be proud to be British. And that's not because of some vapid, superficial idea about British values, which I think is a very modern and pervasive idea, because British values are, they're abstract, they're ahistorical in the way that they are enshrined in law, being things like democracy and tolerance and, faith, mutual respect for different faiths and beliefs and this sort of thing. What we should be proud of is our role in history as a protagonist, a defender of reason and faith and truth, and as being essentially uncompromising on those matters until literally the last 5 minutes, when our leaders decided to do a complete 180 on those issues and decided to take aim at everything that made this country great. And so I think that it is that malaise that people are speaking to when they say that they aren't proud to be British. But actually, I do think there is a very deep sense of patriotism in most people in this country, and it just needs to be reawakened. And I think that is what a lot of this polling is suggesting is happening. I think the support for reform is certainly an expression of this. But I also think that, I don't know that people have a clear idea about what Britain is anymore.
Yeah.
And this is another thing. We've been, the identity has been so diluted.
Yeah, and we've never been taught that it matters. So why would you feel proud of something because you've not been told that it's important? Charlie Downs, thank you so much. Charlie has a podcast with GB News, which you can find on our YouTube channel. Just to let you know that Keir Starmer obviously would say that he's spent £10 million paying for security staff around Jewish sites tonight in defence of any accusation that he's neglected people in the UK. Right, moving on. We are going to take a little break, but first of all, have a look at this.
Oh, £275. Yes! You cheated. You cheated, Jenny. You're a cheat.
Those are the days when you could make jokes about people being overweight. You can't anymore. But President Trump has told Americans to shift those extra pounds. He's announced plans to make America healthy again with weight loss jabs. Is that the solution, or is he setting a dangerous precedent? First of all, a story you will not want to miss.
It's a very good question, Ben, but it's not true. It's the wrong information about President Trump, who has been my friend since I was 20.
You need to stay watching to see what that was about. GB News has spoken exclusively to the journalist who brought down Prince Andrew, as he was, and hours after a phone call with the president, she tells us exactly what he is thinking. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Britain was once the envy of the world, but look around. A nation that no longer knows what it is or where it's going. A country that's broken. How do we fix Britain? How do we bring it back? Friday night with Matt Goodwin at 8 p.m, only on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live with me, Bev Turner, on GB News. Now, disgraced Andrew Mountbatten, Windsor. I still think his surname is too posh because he really doesn't deserve anything of any sort of value anymore, does he? Well, he's been summoned to appear before Congress in Washington over his links to convicted paedophile and financier Jeffrey Epstein. The House Oversight Committee has sent a request today after the former royal lost his title of Prince. Our royal correspondent, Cameron Walker, has more from Brazil, where Prince William and Sir Keir Starmer were attending COP30.
Andrew Mountbatten Windsor has formally lost
the status of HRH and the title of Prince, because the King has formally written a letters patent. So another blow for Prince Andrew. But to make matters worse for him, US Congress announced that they had formally written to Prince Andrew requesting an interview with him, a formal interview with him, to ask about his links to the late paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. And it does have the danger to potentially overshadow what the Prime Minister and Prince William have been doing here in Brazil. The Prime Minister was directly asked about the Andrew problem, and this is what he said.
In the end, it's a matter for him personally. My view, and this is not about the individual case, more broadly, is that anybody who has relevant information should always be willing to give it to whatever inquiries need that information. But the individual decision is a matter for him.
That was the Prime Minister speaking in Rio. Now, a little earlier today, GB News presenter and host of this very show at the weekends, Ben Leo, spoke to world-renowned interviewer and Trump ally Daphne Barak, who exclusively told GB News what Donald Trump makes of the Andrew Epstein scandal.
You're quite friendly with the Trump administration, right? But is your work on the Andrew case and the Epstein scandal not a kind of a bit of a headache for President Trump? He's long said it's a hoax. He wants to focus on the domestic agenda of this administration, cutting illegal migration, growing the economy and so on, putting America first. He doesn't want to know anything about the Epstein situation. Is that not a bit of a conflict for you, Daphne, as an ally of this administration, digging into Epstein and to Andrew?
It's a very good question, Ben, but it's not true. It's the wrong information about President Trump, who has been my friend since I was 20. His son, I was just on the phone last night, and he congratulated me, like everybody else, for bringing the truth about Prince Andrew and his ex, who were actually very close to a pedophile. Not at all. I don't think President Trump is interested in any covering up. He wants the truth up. He, as you know, kicked Jeffrey Epstein from his Mar-a-Lago club, where I'm heading right now, 2 years before he was indicted. Jeffrey Epstein was indicted. So there's nothing there. It's just conspiracy theories. And I think President Trump is a big fan of the royal family of England, and he is very, very sad to see what Prince Andrew has done to the image of this great family. I'm a great fan of King Charles and Camilla. I'm a good friend of Camilla's family. I wouldn't say I'm a friend of King Charles, but I know him. I've given money for the Prince Trust. I admire this family. So no, okay, it's complete. Would he be there today? No. Bill and I saw him on Saturday at the club, and we'll see him tomorrow and this weekend, but he will not be there today because today is a weekday, but we will see him. And I'm just telling you, President Trump is very, very interested to bring the truth about Jeffrey Epstein. He has children, he has many grandchildren, and it's completely untrue.
So Ben Leo joins me in the studio now, and we've also got former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner, staying with me as well. Niall, I know you have some interesting royal family stories as well, but Ben, do you think Andrew will come here to give evidence?
So let's be clear, first of all, the powers that the House Oversight Committee in Congress have to order Prince Andrew here, which is precisely none. So the most senior Democrat in the committee, a guy called Robert Garcia, he's the one who's penned this letter to Andrew. It's been signed by a dozen other top Democrats, but they've only urged him to come. They have no subpoena powers. They can't order him to come. So when you think about it, he's lost his titles. He's been kicked out of Royal Lodge. His reputation's in the gutter, never to be revived again. Why would you, if you were Andrew, why would you come over voluntarily to the United States to be grilled in Congress about your relationship with Jeffrey Epstein? Pigs will fly before he does it, I suggest. Although Daphne said in that interview there, Daphne Barak, she said the only maybe a slither of the reason why he would is to kind of put it all to rest finally for the sake of the victims, but I don't think he'll do that.
Niall, it also begs the question, why don't they summon someone like Bill Clinton? Like, he went to see Epstein more times than Andrew did. There are people in this country, maybe they will as well, I suppose, but there are people in this country that could give evidence. Why Andrew, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is very political, of course, and it's the Democrats on the House Oversight Committee calling for Andrew to testify. They don't have the power, as Ben points out, to force Andrew to come over and testify. And so I think, you know, there is zero chance of Andrew coming over here. Bill Clinton, on the other hand, as former president, US citizen, the House Oversight Committee could, of course, compel him to testify if they wanted to. But, of course, the Democrats are not going to pick on one of their own.
No.
They're going to overlook, of course,
that's what it looks like,
any association between Bill Clinton and Epstein, but they'll focus on Prince Andrew because he's an easy target. It's very political here.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, the firebrand Republican, of course, she's been urging Prince Andrew to come over as well. She's on the House Oversight Committee. She's a Republican and going against the sort of MAGA grain against President Trump, who she says she supports vehemently. She has been on the steps of the Capitol building here in Washington, D.C. with victims of Epstein, calling for the Trump administration to release the so-called Epstein files, which Trump, of course, calls a hoax. So the likes of Marjorie Taylor Greene have gone against the grain, despite the political alliances. So there's no reason why the Democrats couldn't. And it's no conspiracy. This is true. In Epstein's Island, Bill Clinton travelled on that plane many times, that's a fact. There was a portrait of Bill Clinton in a blue dress wearing red high heels. So he was very, very familiar with Jeffrey Epstein. Who knows what he got up to on that island? But as you said, Noel, why isn't the likes of Bill Clinton also being examined? Why is it just Prince Andrew? There is a suggestion from lots of our viewers included that this is Andrew is being used as a scapegoat for many other people who were affiliated with Epstein.
Yeah, I think so. I do think that Andrew's being used as a sort of political weapon here by the Democrats. I do think actually there's a far stronger case for Prince Harry to be called to testify before Congress about his illegal drug use, and after all, he was allowed entry into the United States. Like that's a very big issue.
And that's,
but curiously, the Democrats haven't actually
just to explain,
gone down that path.
Everybody will remember at home, I'm sure everyone will remember this story about Harry saying in his book Spare that he had taken drugs. And you, Niall, were the person who went, well, in that case, we need to see your application for your visa. That was you, wasn't it?
Correct.
Why?
Well, the case continues, in fact, and we are appealing to the Trump administration to release Prince Harry's immigration records because he admitted to extensive illegal drug use in his own book, Spare. And Prince Harry was granted entry to the United States. Normally, of course, if you've used illegal drugs, that's a criminal offence, and it's very difficult to enter into the United States. Was he given preferential treatment, or did he lie? If he lied on his application form, that is a federal criminal offence that would result in deportation or 5 years in jail. So the stakes are very high for Prince Harry.
And you're not letting it drop, are you?
No, the fight continues, and we have sued the State Department for the release of Prince Harry's immigration records.
Just a very quick last word, and the president's been set now, stripping of titles.
Yes,
with Andrew.
Absolutely.
Harry next, who knows?
Harry should lose his title, 100%.
OK, let me know at home what you think. gbnews.com/your say. A palace source has told GB News that allegations against Andrew should be examined in an appropriate way. But Andrew has vehemently denied all allegations made against him. We should remind ourselves he's never been charged, he's never been found guilty of anything. And on Bill Clinton, in 2019, a spokesman said the former president knows nothing about the terrible crimes Jeffrey Epstein pleaded guilty to in Florida some years ago, or those with which he has recently been charged in New York. But the portrait is true. Coming up on The Late Show Live.
For nearly 150 years, my company, Eli Lilly, has been investing in America.
There was a medical incident in the Oval Office this afternoon during a major announcement which saw the press kicked out and the US sent into a frenzy. I'll bring you the latest also tonight.
There's a BBC for each of us, funded by all of us. This is our BBC.
Does the state broadcaster deal with facts anymore? Perhaps there's a reason GB News has become Britain's #1 news channel for 4 months running. This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique. And you're fighting like rats in a sack. But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask. OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician. Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off-limits. You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
and
say,
now you've lost it. That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless. No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show. Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
No matter the state it's in, this is our nation. Join me, Jacob Rees-Mogg, for a genuine, honest discussion on where we have been, where we are going, and where we are with the people who set the direction. Tune in to State of the Nation every Monday to Thursday, 8 to 9 o'clock. Only on GB News.
Britain deserves a newsroom that puts the facts and your voice first.
Well, and that's what you get on GB News. Lively debates, lively conversation.
And we're not afraid to hold power to account.
And each other. So join me, Andrew Pierce.
And me, Miriam Cates, for Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 on GB News.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
So he can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Stephen Dixon, and thanks for joining us on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Malcolm Mystery, who was involved in the research, says that the aged, pregnant people, women, and those with pre-existing health conditions.
Well, that was BBC News presenter Martine Croxall. You saw her there in that clip, and it's been shown so many times. She has been reprimanded by the BBC for correcting the script as she was reading the auto cue and saying women about pregnant people. The BBC upheld 20 complaints, apparently, after she changed the script. Apparently, it's a controversial view. That is a quote. Only at the BBC could biology be branded as bias. So much for diversity of thought. Let's talk to Kathy Larkman, the director of Women's Rights Network. Kathy, good evening. Thank you so much for joining me. I mean, it beggars belief. This is in a week in which the BBC has been criticised by a leaked dossier for taking one side in certain critical debates, and particularly the trans issue was one of those issues that was cited in this dossier. What was she guilty of, Martine Croxall, in your opinion?
Well, hi, Bev. Thanks for having me on, and well done, Martine Croxall from Women Everywhere. And I'd like to join her in a collective eye roll, if I could, really, that mild eye roll that she gave. Because the complaint that was upheld against her was upheld because she was essentially guilty of a face crime in relation to this. She read out the auto cue, as you've shown and as you've commented on, and corrected the line pregnant people to women, and then added a very mild eye roll. It's absolutely incomprehensible that the BBC... Sorry, I just did an eye roll. absolutely incomprehensible that the BBC would uphold a complaint against her for this. It's ludicrous, really, but it's not surprising to female campaigners everywhere.
We saw from this leaked dossier that the BBC News has an LGBTQA plus desk, how they describe it. So they've got, presumably, it won't be just one desk, it will be a department at the BBC of people who make sure that the news channel toes the line. That the rights of, or the ideology of trans people and the belief that you've either been born in the wrong body or you can change your sex is factual and true. But that, Cathy, is in opposition to the Supreme Court ruling even. We've seen cases, we've seen this now, you know, inscribed in law. So what are the BBC doing? Why are they still so captured?
Well, it's just incredible. It defies belief, doesn't it? But as you say, they've been completely captured. From board level down, they're really too paralysed by either by fear or ineptitude to deal with this. And effectively, you know, the British public, British women who know that only females get pregnant and that Martine is 100% right, are paying, in effect, a tax to keep those people in salaries and expenses. I know lots of women are cancelling their BBC TV licences as a result of this. It's the final straw. And it's the final straw on top of things like the misreporting by the BBC, reporting male murderers as women unquestioningly. There was a case last year of an individual called Scarlett Blake who had liquidised a cat, murdered a man, and he was reported as a female crime, and a woman as having committed it. And that's just one example. You've alluded to the Supreme Court hearing. On BBC Woman's Hour, after that hearing, they actually interviewed, because they've been resisting this, I think, for a long, long time, Helen Joyce from the human rights charity Sex Matters and Kate Barker from LGB Alliance, both women whose organisations were represented at the Supreme Court hearing brought by For Women Scotland. And when both of those women in separate interviews made comments, I think with Helen Joyce, she made a comment that trans women are men, because the BBC don't explain that to the public when they use that expression, that they actually mean men, and therefore it's very confusing. And when Kate Barker said that, you know, commented along the lines of, you know, only women are lesbians, not men. The presenter actually took a breath for a while and sort of said in very hushed tones that some people will find that view very, very offensive. No, it's not offensive. We need to get away from this and return to facts. The BBC is supposed to tell the truth, not lie to the public. It's unforgivable that they are lying to the public and leading them down this road.
The area of maternity care, because she was talking about pregnant women, people. Actually, maternity care is one of the most captured areas, public areas of British life, partly because there have been some very militant doulas, trans activists who have been paid to go into NHS departments and coach midwives in the language of birth, which is chest feeding, which is pregnant people. This is where it's come from. Too many weak, well-meaning people, often women actually, in those departments who have allowed these people to come in and change the way that they speak. How do we empower those people, Cathy, to turn around and say, no, I'm not colluding in your balderdash anymore. I'm not going to be part of it, because they probably risk losing their job.
I know, and there is a real fear out there in lots of organisations and industries. Health is just one, and I'm sure you're aware of the cases going on with the nurses at the moment, the Darlington nurses, and the case of Sandy Peggy up in against Fife NHS Trust, both sets of nurses there, needing the right to be able to undress at work without a man being in the changing rooms and having to take their NHS trust to court in relation to that. But, you mentioned maternity services, and there's a very sort of, it's not just the sort of fear and capture, there's a very, very serious and concerning issue here in that men are actually being encouraged to chest feed babies. Yeah. Now, I'm sorry, no man, any man who is wants a child to latch onto his nipple and feed needs investigation, not encouragement.
Yeah. And on that bombshell, Kathy, on those strangest sentences that we hear ourselves uttering in 2025, I will bid you good night. Kathy Larkman there, Director at the Women's Rights Network. I will talk to my panel about this a little later in the show, but in a statement from BBC's Executive Complaints Unit, they said, giving the strong impression of expressing a personal view on a controversial matter, even if inadvertently falls short of the BBC's expectations of its presenters and journalists in relation to impartiality. It wasn't impartiality, that's the wrong word, isn't it? The BBC added, we continually review our coverage to reflect developments such as the recent Supreme Court ruling. Get in touch this evening, gbnews.com/your say, still to come on The Late Show Live.
Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed.
To Nigeria, the president says that Christian blood is being spilled by Islamist extremists and he's demanding action. I'm going to speak to the group who've been at the front line of this fight. This is The Late Show Live.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News, the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world. Am I allowed to talk now? No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
In fact, has Trump made a good start? No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints. How many fingers have I got up? About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/your say. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/your say, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
You want to know what's really going on in the corridors of power? Labour don't know what to do with you half the time, and that makes you quite lethal in the chamber. Get behind the headlines with Chopper's Political Podcast. Join me, Christopher Hope, as I sit down with the great and the good of British politics. We'll see where this ruling takes us. These are the stories shaping our nation. Chopper's Political Podcast, available now on all platforms. Listen in and stay ahead.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
no,
Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to The Late Show Live. I am Bev Turner. There's a story that's just broken here, which we're going to bring you in just a moment. It's about a teacher that was shot by a 6-year-old school pupil. You don't want to miss that. Let's take a look at what's hitting the headlines this evening back in Britain and here in DC. Let's speak to comedian and commentator Adam Kumas this evening. Adam, new to The Late Show Live. Thank you very much for sticking around for us there in the studio. Nice to see you. So let's have a look at these front pages. Now, the Shirley Valentine, actress Pauline Collins. So this is on the front page of a couple of the papers, of course. You're probably too young to remember this person, Adam.
Slightly, yes.
Slightly, but does the name Shirley Valentine mean anything to you?
It does ring a bell. I think there's obviously she meant a lot. She was a big sort of cultural reference to a lot of people. And yeah, it's obviously sad to see that she's passed away. You know.
Yeah, well, she's on the front page of the Express, the Times and the Telegraph, and this is because actually she died at the age of 85, peacefully surrounded by her family. We hear she died in North London. She had Parkinson's disease for several years.
Yes.
But the reason she's so iconic, even though she only really did one famous film in 1989, but that tells you so much about that film, and she got an Oscar nomination, she got a BAFTA for Best Actress. Let's have a quick look at her in action in that movie.
We always have steak on Thursday. Mother, you haven't put enough sugar in this cocoa. Hiya, Wall. What's wrong with that? There's a woman 3 doors down talks to a microwave. I think sex is like supermarkets. Just a lot of pushing and shoving, and you still come out with very little at the end.
Oh, she was absolutely brilliant. She's a fantastic comedy actress. I want to bring in my panel as well here. Niall, you and I are old enough to remember Shirley Valentine. And it was such an iconic movie because it was about a housewife, downtrodden. You see there, she's being bullied by her husband, bullied by her kids. And she goes on holiday to Greece, doesn't she? And has this huge, awakening personality story, Niall.
Yes, a very iconic film from the late 1980s and a hugely popular film. I think she also won the Golden Globe, actually, for Best Actress that year. And Pauline Collins is actually one of the original Liverbirds as well, so a much-loved TV personality as well, and a greatly cherished actress, I think, by the British people.
Adam, thank you, Niall. Adam, let's have a quick look at this Prince Andrew story. This is on the front page of the papers as well. Is he going to go to America and give some evidence to the House committee here?
Well, it seems like, I mean, if he says he's innocent, which is the line he's taking, you know, there's no harm in going. But you know, my thoughts personally are, you know, you should go and face the music, whatever they may be. So.
Yeah, if you say, Angelina, that you care about the victims, and the royal family statement has been, we want justice for the victims, then surely he should go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, sure. It's very disingenuous, though, you know? I don't think that Prince Andrew is all of a sudden going to show up and be like, yes, I was with these people, this is what I saw. That's not what's going to happen to Prince Andrew. Now, the only way he's going to come over is if the U.S. somehow is able to press charges against Prince Andrew. Of course, that wasn't possible with his diplomatic status, but now that his title's being removed, I think that's going to be a question that people start asking.
Oh, do you think really that might be the case, that now this doesn't have his titles, he could be prosecuted? Niall, do you have any insight into that?
I think it's highly unlikely that we will actually see that, and of course there's a zero chance of the former Prince Andrew voluntarily appearing before a congressional committee, and the congressional committee has no power to force him to do so. But I very much doubt some kind of US criminal prosecution. I don't see that happening.
And Adam, on the front page.
I can't hear her.
Today, clouds overhead, total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A few showers around this morning, but a lot of dry weather at first before a band of prolonged rain turns up towards the southwest later. And it's a mild day once again, although not quite as mild as the last few days. Initially, showers will affect parts of eastern England. They'll be moving north into northeast England. 1 or 2 showers for western Scotland as well. But actually, it's across Scotland where we've got the best chance of some sunny spells away from the showers. 1 or 2 breaks in the cloud through the Midlands and the southeast. Temperatures here reaching 16 Celsius. A degree or 2 down on the last few days, but still mild. Meanwhile, we've got a system moving into the southwest as well as South Wales, turning things wet and breezy as we end the afternoon and go into the evening. That's approaching Northern Ireland at first through the evening, but Scotland staying clear with Actually, some patchy cloud, but otherwise mostly dry weather. Here are the showers that we start the day in the southeast with. They're moving into northeast England, some heavy downpours, but away from there, a few gaps in the cloud, some late clear spells for parts of the Midlands and East Anglia before the rain moves through overnight. And that's going to push into North Wales, the Midlands, Northern Ireland and eventually Northern England, tending to fizzle away, and it starts to clear up across southern parts of the UK. 1 or 2 showers, yes, but otherwise a mostly fine night. A little cooler overnight compared with recent nights. Temperatures actually dipping into the single figures. We've not seen that through much of the week. So a fresh start for many on Saturday, but a bright start for Northern Ireland, much of southern England as well as Wales. Some decent sunshine around. A lot more cloud for Scotland with some showery rain here. Some showers also for Northern Ireland as well as West Wales and the southwest. But towards the east, we keep the sunny skies. It stays dry. It's not going to be quite as mild, but still temperatures above average with highs of 15 Celsius.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Box Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it? Because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
At GB News, we love to hear from you, our loyal community. So drop us a line at gbnews.com/yoursay. There you can talk to each other and also to the presenters live on air. gbnews.com/yoursay, because GB News is your channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster, the ultimate clique.
And you're fighting like rats in a sack.
But here on the Camilla Tominey Show, we ask the questions the establishment media is too scared to ask.
OK, let me ask you a straight question, because I know you're a straight-talking politician.
Whether it's net zero, illegal immigration or law and order, nothing is off limits.
You had the power then.
Yeah, as I
And
say,
now you've lost it.
That's the Camilla Tominey Show, a politics show that's fearless.
No, let me finish my question if you don't mind, because it is my show.
Sundays at 9:30, only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country. There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor. Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Prison reforms in the UK, which will hopefully stop offenders being let out early. And here in DC, Donald Trump has announced more affordable fat jabs. Tonight on The Late Show Live.
We risk becoming an island of strangers.
not a nation that walks forward together.
Breaking tonight, Britain is more divided than ever, with tensions between migrants and British-born citizens reaching record highs.
Congress in America, as you know, is sitting on hundreds of thousands of documents, so more and more is coming.
Andrew summoned Congress, has called on the former Duke to testify and explain his links to convicted paedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Plus, we're going to be diving headfirst into the stories from tomorrow's newspapers hours before they even hit the shelves. We're live, as you know, in Washington, D.C., just yards from the White House, bringing you the stories that America is talking about and that matter to Britain too, including this.
Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter.
Trump's warning to Nigeria. The president says Christian blood is being spilled by Islamist extremists. He's demanding action. We're going to speak to the group who've been on the front line of this very fight. Also tonight,
I was referring to Ozempic, or I heard the fat loss drug.
So those are going to be $150 out of pocket for Americans.
They'll be much lower.
buckle up. America is tightening its belt, but this time, unlike in Britain, it's not because of the economy. Instead, President Trump has unveiled plans to slash the cost of weight loss drugs to make this country healthy again.
Oh, £275. Yes! You cheated. You cheated, Jenny. You're a cheat.
Also on the show tonight, some breaking news out of America right now. Apologies. An elementary school teacher who was shot by her 6-year-old student has been awarded $10 million in damages, which is far less than the $40 million that she initially sought. Now, this story has been quite high profile here in America. It really hasn't made the headlines in the UK. Abigail Zwerner was shot in the chest and hand in January 2023 when the young boy brought his mother's gun into the classroom and opened fire at Rich Neck Elementary School in Newport News, Virginia. Zwerner sued the school's assistant principal, Ebony Parker, accusing her of ignoring multiple warnings that the child had a gun that day. Now, despite the shocking circumstances, the jury slashed her claim by $30 million. And during the trial, Zwerner described how a reading specialist told her that students were talking about a gun hours before the attack, but no action was taken. The shooting happened on the boy's first day back at school. And I'd just love to know from my panel what you make of that story. Angelina, it's unfathomable, especially to Brits, that a 6-year-old could go to school and take a gun in their bag and shoot their teacher.
Yeah, it's absolutely heartbreaking. And again, that's why the parents are being charged with negligence here, because how did the child access the gun, right? That was something that was taken from home that he brought into school. It's quite alarming. It's horrible what happened, that anyone was injured, and that even, you know, now this child, what's happening to this family, they're being completely, you know, taken apart. I do have a lot of empathy for this child because his parents are now in jail for child neglect, and he has now the trauma of shooting his teacher, which he probably isn't even aware of the damage that he did himself.
I mean, 6 years old, Niall. That is year one or reception, probably not reception as we would know it in the UK, probably just into year one. And is it right that the parents are locked up and away from that child, or is that not necessarily the right thing to do? I don't know, I'm a bit torn on that.
Well, it's a horrible, tragic story on so many fronts, and certainly, of course, the parents have been held accountable, and a lot of questions as well about the accountability of the school district, the school itself, and I have to say, one of the most horrific, you know, stories of its kind that we've seen in many years here in the United States. A very, very sad story. It's also, of course, captivated the American people. A great deal of attention has been paid naturally to this story, but it's a horrendous story, a sad story, and a very tragic one.
According to the teacher's lawyers, Zwerner's lawyers, they said the boy had a history of random violence, and the teacher had told Parker, this is the elementary school, was she deputy head or something, that he was in a violent mood, and during recess the teacher became suspicious that the student had a weapon. She went and told 2 other teachers. They looked in his bag, they didn't find anything, but this teacher, Parker, who she sued, decided not to search the boys' pockets because she believed that they were too small to hold a gun. It's just the most awful story. $10 million is a huge amount of money, though. Do you think she should have been given the 40 that she was asking?
I mean, she nearly died. It nearly missed her heart, and she's not teaching again. I'm sure that was a passion of hers. She's gone into cosmetology. I've seen that now. So yeah, 10 million. She's not able to work right now.
For the rest of yeah, but
I don't know how long. I don't know what other financial problems came from this as well. As we all know, healthcare is astronomically expensive, and what other kind of financial burden she took on because of this trauma. Let alone, again, all the therapy that she is going to have to be dealing with. And it's scary because it is a 6-year-old kid. And I've worked with children before. I used to be a swim coach here in DC. And 6-year-olds, they don't know any better. They don't know what they're doing. They're not aware of that kind of action. So to say that he's angry and he's, that anger is coming from the home. He's learning that somewhere. I think that the parents should be held accountable in this situation because a kid that is 6 years old is not self-aware enough to break into his parents' room, take the gun, and then go and commit a crime.
And obviously that gun was probably readily available at home for him to take and put in his bag and just pick it up. It's unbelievable. Also breaking tonight back in the UK, what prison crisis? After 2 wrongful releases this week from HMP Wandsworth, the same prison that once let the terror suspect vanish out the back door, if you remember, the government is saying it is finally getting tough. Deputy Prime Minister David Lammy today admitted the system is in crisis and that he's sending in what he calls crack teams to fix it. Well, earlier he spoke to broadcasters where he didn't pass the buck at all.
We have found out that the release that has caused concern this week was actually before I introduced those checks just a few weeks ago following the release of Kobatu. And the other prisoner was a court mistake, not in fact a prison mistake.
And today, at the groundbreaking of a new prison in Leicestershire, the Deputy Prime Minister met with 11 governors from across the country, where he promised to roll out cutting-edge technology to stop human error. So after years of prison overcrowding, staff shortages and paper files that look like they belong in the 1950s, the government's big idea is basically a new IT system. The Prime Minister also put his 2 pence in on the issue, though he did so from Brazil.
Well, let me just say how angry and frustrated I am that these mistakes have been made in releasing people. They're intolerable and they shouldn't be made. A lot of it comes from the burden and the strain on the system because of the failures of the last government. But I recognise it's our job to step up and to fix this, and we will. We're put in place an independent inquiry into these releases to find out what's going wrong. David Lammy, the Justice Secretary, has convened the governors to talk to them about what more can be done. But we must put the systems in place to ensure that this doesn't happen again, and we will.
Well, suggestion, Prime Minister, that you stop travelling around the world, this time with the climate industrial complex, and deal with the issues at home. At the moment, 2 inmates are on the run. The public's patience is wearing thin. Let's not sugarcoat it. If the justice system can't even keep track of its prisoners, what chance does it have of protecting the public? Lammy says that Britain has a mountain to climb, maybe. But right now, it feels like the mountain has escaped too. Just for clarity, the accidental releases of the violent criminals and sex offenders is the highest number on record, and 8 times the figure in the previous year, where just 11 people were freed by mistake. Let's talk to my panel. Former aide to Margaret Thatcher, Niall Gardner, and journalist and broadcaster Angelina McAhey. Niall, when you realise that our prison system is so crumbling, what would Margaret Thatcher have said about it?
Oh, she would have been horrified and appalled by what's happening. I'm sure she would have called for David Lammy's resignation. I mean, he's completely hopeless. This Labour government's 100% responsible for what's happening here. They're still blaming the Conservatives, even though Labour's been in power for over a year. And I do think that this is a sinking government in a state of crisis. Latest opinion poll gives Labour 15% in the opinion polls. I would describe it as the most useless government in British history. Staggeringly incompetent, grossly mismanaged at every single level, and there's zero public confidence and faith in Keir Starmer or David Lammy, or frankly the entire cabinet actually. Certainly I think David Lammy should resign over this. I mean, it's an absolutely appalling, outrageous scandal.
He's been nicknamed now Calamity Lammy, hasn't he? Now, they have been saying, and, you know, maybe 14 years of Conservative rule did run the prison, they definitely ran the prison service into the ground. So maybe we should have some sympathy with what they're having to deal with. But maybe a year is not long enough to fix such a problem.
Well, the reality is that Labour, of course, they're in charge now, and the release rate of prisoners by mistake is many times greater than it was under the Conservatives, and so Labour has to take full responsibility for what has happened.
Yeah.
And I think there's a real culture of incompetence within Labour. This is a clown show government that's in power right now, and the British people do not have any faith or confidence in this Labour government. That is the reality, and yet this Labour government doesn't take any responsibility for anything it does at all.
Well, that's the thing, it's the responsibility, isn't it? We live in this age of this accountability deficit is the phrase, and I love that phrase. It's a book actually written by a brilliant campaigner called Molly Kingsley. And it seems, Angelina, that in the UK, and I don't know if it's the same here in America, that when mistakes are made, nobody falls on their sword anymore. Nobody even resigns or gets kicked out. Politics is full of people behaving badly and never feeling any consequence for doing so. Is it the same here?
Yes, definitely the same here. I mean, politicians don't take accountability, right? That's what journalists are for. Our job is to keep politicians accountable because they don't take responsibility for when they've done wrong. Like, look at Trump. He does everything right. He's always right. Everything I do is great. That's not true. Some things he has done that are okay. Some things he has done has been completely catastrophic. He will not take ownership of that, right? And he never will. And I don't think it, you know, that brings into question, are politicians innately corrupt? Are these institutions innately corrupt? Can they or will they ever be able to hold themselves accountable?
Yeah, well, it makes a bit of a mockery of democracy, doesn't it? I'm going to try and be generous here, Niall, and think about some of the things that this Labour government would say that they've done well. Raising the minimum wage helped the people on the minimum wage, may not have helped the business owners. I know what you're going to say. They have cut NHS waiting lists. They have started house building. They've expanded free school meals for people who, well, no, for everybody actually. They brought back breakfast clubs. They boosted apprenticeships in some areas as well. They've reformed the planning legislation to try and help building grow. And they claim they've got the fastest G7 growth.
I think if you look at the big picture, this Labour government hasn't actually achieved anything at all. In contrast to the Trump administration here in the United States, which has been extremely effective. You look, for example, at the southern US border is now under complete control. Illegal migration into the United States is now down to practically zero. This is a huge achievement by the US presidency, and there's no comparison between, I think, the flailing, sinking Labour government and the United States administration, which I think has been overall very, very successful. And the Labour government really just continually blames the previous Conservative administrations. It is, in my view, the most left-wing British government in history, and also the most useless government of British history. And my former boss, Margaret Thatcher, would have been absolutely horrified by the state of Britain today. I do think, and the opinion polls show this, most British people are absolutely fed up with this Labour government, but they're stuck with it because Labour has such a big majority. But the reality is this is an incredibly unpopular government in the UK, and Keir Starmer is just staggeringly incompetent, and he has a deputy prime minister, frankly, who's even worse. And so this is a government in ruins. It's taking the country down. There's a deep sense of despair and decline in Britain for everyone to see, and it's very, very sad to see this, Bev. And there's a real sense of despondency in Britain today, and I don't think that's the case here in the United States, actually.
Is it, Angelina? People here, I mean, you know, people like Niall will be looking at New York now with Mamdani being elected as a very unashamed, unabashed socialist. and they will be saying, oh dear, what's happened in the UK is going to happen in New York now, that you're going to run out of money, you're going to have so much tension because of mass multicultural divide within that city. What's your position on Mamdani?
I mean, Mamdani, we don't know that that's going to happen, okay? He does have political experience. Yes, some of the promises that he made are grandiose, they're large, but every politician has that. We don't know the results of Mamdani or what's going to happen. I think Mamdani is very much a voice of the millennials who don't feel like politicians are listening to us. I don't feel like politicians are listening to me. I don't feel like the older generation is listening to me. So, no, I think Mamdani is actually a good thing. I think that his experience and his perspective on life is actually, it's reinvigorating youth. It's reinvigorating my generation. It's getting people involved in politics who are so emotionally and mentally checked out because our lives are just on the decline. We're not getting better. Our student loans are still extremely outrageous. My salary is only covering half of my rent, and that's like it for most people, right? We're spending, what, $40,000 a year on tuition, promise that we're gonna get a decent job. Even when we get that decent job, it's still not a high enough rate to pay all the debt. And now I'm on the open market. I recently went to the open market healthcare, and that blew my mind. That was a new thing for me. That happened literally 2 weeks ago. I went into open market, and I'm just like, healthcare prices are astronomically expensive. So no, I think socialism is a combination of democracy and social welfare programs, right? So it's like socialism to what degree? And I think Mamdani is testing that line. How much socialism do we want versus how much capitalism do we want, and what kind of mixture do we want? Because whatever mixture we have right now, I can tell you it's not working, and it hasn't been working.
That view, if I may, and I do think Mamdani is an incredibly dangerous individual. He's an anti-Semite, he's an Islamist, he's going to destroy New York City, and his vision is absolutely frightening, and it is absolutely. It's horrifying that so many younger voters in New York have embraced an incredible extremist, actually, somebody who represents, I think, the very, very worst of society. But and I do think it's frightening what he's going to do to New York. We've seen Sadiq Khan do the same to London, and it's the language of hate. Despair and decline. Socialists destroy everything. He got
97% of the votes.
I don't understand how he's anti-Semitic either. Like, I just don't understand.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
He is.
No, sorry, not 97%.
But I'm happy to be corrected.
Just over half of the votes in New York City overall. Just over half, and I'm pretty sure of that. And I think that.
I thought. I mean,
there's
we will
far tighter race than.
But I mean, like, look, Trump has had his own socialist policies, like the government's involvement in Intel. By definition, that is a socialist act, right? By academic definition, that is a socialist act. Yes, it is. It is.
It's not.
So definitions and what things are don't really matter anymore. What matters is
do matter.
They don't. Not according to the Trump administration.
Socialism is a fundamental evil, and that's the reality. Socialists have destroyed everything in their path.
I think you're confusing socialism and communism.
No, actually, I'm not confusing.
I think there is a confusion here between socialism and communism. And he identifies as a socialist Democrat.
Is a
so again,
and a socialist.
It's the fusion of how much socialism versus how much capitalism do we want. He's not asking to go full capitalism.
Where has socialism ever succeeded in the
New York Post.
Where has socialism ever succeeded?
Socialist programs do. Yes, 100%.
Where socialism has ever worked anywhere in the world?
There are public health care programs.
Yeah,
I'm trying to.
Has succeeded.
I'm trying to.
Please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay. So socialism again is government programs mixed with capitalism, right? So there are government-sponsored programs. There are social welfare programs around the world that are successful.
You go back to university and study the definition of socialism, because
I feel like you're confusing communism and socialism. And even if you look at the New York Post, right? On the New York Post, it has Mamdani with the communist symbols. Mamdani, new mayor of New York, with the communist symbols.
So he's a communist.
He's not a communist. That's what I'm saying. You guys are confusing communism and socialism. They're not the same thing. And he's a democratic socialist. So that means he wants more government programs, but working aside capitalism. So it's government-funded social programs.
Made a distinction between socialism and communism.
But there is a difference. They are communists. They're not socialists. So social welfare programs are a good thing. They are a good thing. They help our downtrodden. And again, like, what is our moral question?
Using everybody else's money, using taxpayers' money.
I think that's. I am willing to give my taxpayer money to fund social welfare programs.
You can voluntarily give your money to socialists, but don't force everybody else.
I'm not forcing anybody.
Welfare programs.
But I think that's a question society has to ask. That's the question society has to ask. And that's not always the case that people aren't working. Like, my sister was in school and she was on SNAP benefits. So she was also working. It's that her income qualified her for that. People aren't always not working. To assume that is just a blanket assumption. It's not really fair. Right? That's not a fair statement. It almost shows that you come from a certain privileged class.
Oh, really?
You don't necessarily integrate.
What do you know? What do you know about my background?
No, I'm saying, have you hung out with people who are on benefits? Have you been to these community centers? Do you see that they're all jobless and they're all leeches? But the point is socialism.
Most Americans work,
and so do people who are on social welfare programs. People who work on.
They should not be taxed to pay for socialist, communist, grand visions. Actually, the hard-working American people should not pay for socialist programs.
I disagree. Socialist programs include Medicaid, they include Medicare, they include SNAP benefits. These are social programs. These are social welfare programs that we pay into that help Americans. And I completely disagree with that statement.
Are you on board with some form of welfare, Niall, for people who really need it, but you feel that maybe that net has become too wide?
Only for people who simply can't work, who don't have the physical capacity, perhaps, to work.
But students, like Angelina was saying, if you're studying and you need some help, should you be entitled to some government support?
No. Why should somebody who's an electrician or plumber pay off the student loans of students at new.
I'm not asking them to pay. Okay, so that situation was different. So actually, my sister, who was in school, she was in school and on SNAP benefits. She was working. She was also paying her college tuition, and she couldn't afford groceries, so she was on SNAP benefits, and she was in California at the time. But still,
why should everybody else pay for that?
I'm okay with that. Yeah, I'm okay with that.
You can pay for it. You can voluntarily pay for it, but don't ask.
But that's a decision.
Everybody else.
You're right. That's a decision that society makes, and that's a decision that our society has made. But to say that Mandami is just a complete communist is just not factually true. It's not factually true.
He's an evil communist.
It's not factually true.
He's also an anti-Semite.
And there's what evidence do you have to say that he's an anti-Semite?
Oh, look at all of his statements, for example. Look at him.
I don't think they're anti-Semitic statements.
With these pro-Hamas, Jew-hating.
They're not. He's not pro-Hamas. He's pro-Palestine, an independent Palestine state, which is not the same as pro-Hamas. Mandami is pro independent Palestinian state. That's not the same as being pro-Hamas.
He's a pro-terrorist.
That's not the same thing. Where are you getting that information? Where did he say that? He has tons of Jewish followers. He has tons of Jewish supporters.
There was a lot of Jewish people voted for him.
Tons of Jewish people voting for him.
Huge numbers of Jewish people voted against Mamdani as a dangerous threat, actually, to Jews in America, but also to the United States. It is a dark day when we see this kind of communist, extremist, Islamist, Jew-hating individual.
But he's not an extremist. You could say the same thing about Trump being an extremist, right? You have actual Nazi groups supporting Trump. You have Patriot Front. You have Blood Tribe. These are actual factually Nazi groups
the real Nazis
supporting
the
Trump.
The Islamists are the
Nazis. But why is it okay on the right to have Nazis and anti-Semites, but it's not okay on the left? So the hypocrisy in just that statement alone is like confusing, right?
The vast majority of Nazis are actually Islamists, actually.
I'm sorry?
The majority of Nazis in America, these pro-Hamas Islamists. They're
not. I've done multiple projects with Patriot Front hunting down Blood Tribe. I was very involved in different riots that were going on in 2020. They're not Muslim. They're white. They're white Americans. They're white Americans, and they're Nazis.
Is a modern-day form of Nazi. Actually.
He's not. He is not a Nazi, and that's just an allegation that you're making.
He's a Nazi-style figure.
No, he's definitely. But then you could argue Trump's a Nazi-style figure.
Not.
Trump has the Nazi groups in America actually endorse Trump.
One example of Trump ever supporting Nazis. One example.
Yeah, he had Nick Fuentes at his house. He had Kanye at his house for dinner. Yeah, those are two Nazis. Kanye has come out and said, have you seen Kanye's statements against Jews?
Yes. And well, Kanye West would say
Trump
that
has never
actually...
supported Nazis, and you cannot point to one example where he's ever supported...
I just
the
did,
thing is,
though.
but the thing is, we're talking...
It's not good enough for you.
No, where has Trump actually ever supported Nazis?
All of
I
the
just
above.
gave you multiple examples.
All of the above, be it Nick Fuentes, be it Kanye West, be it Donald Trump, be it Mamdani, everybody would deny that they are a Nazi, and we probably should not throw that word around liberally without genuinely drilling down into what you think the definition of that is. Let's just tell the British viewers some of the policies that Mamdani was elected on. So, freeze rents citywide. What does he mean by that? Because that sounds bonkers to Brits.
Yeah, it does sound bonkers, but I thought about it and I applied it to DC. Right now, I lived in a capped rental place, right?
What does that mean?
So that means there's a limit on how much my rent can increase per year.
And it's a private landlord.
It is a private landlord, but
the government still intervene and say you can only charge so much.
Yes, exactly. But I still get yearly increases. With that being said, again, the rates are going up so fast, it's not matching salaries.
So in New York now,
you could live somewhere else, actually.
So in New York now, all the people who private landlords who own these apartments, who might have budgeted to increase the rent, they now cannot, at the behest of the government, increase, or of the mayor, the state, they can't increase the rent.
So where that becomes a problem is actually for small landlord tenants. For big companies and corporations, it's really not. Like for my property, I've done my research. It's actually owned by former like CBC executives, these big real estate firms, right? So they can actually afford it, and they're doing absolutely no maintenance. They're not keeping the conditions of my building up to DC housing law. Luckily, I am someone who knows lawyers, and I've actually had to get my lawyers involved to try and get them. That still won't even budge my property. And there's a lot of kind of big corporations that run properties like that, but they're still increasing the rate, but they're not improving the cost.
What right has the government to set rental rates by private landlords? That's communism, actually. This is
they're putting a cap on it,
but I think control of the free market.
And it comes down to
it is fundamentally un-American. Actually, it is against freedom and liberty here. This is exactly what the communists do, and what Mamdani is proposing here, of course, is outright communism.
The trouble is, in a world of global brands, in a world where the globalists are pushing so much wealth upstream, into tiny number of hands now. We've had the biggest transfer of wealth in history in the last few years since the pandemic. Actually, we created so many billionaires. There is an argument to say that's not like you or I, Niall, owning a little flat that we might have invested in and renting it out to somebody. That should be left alone. But if you have got these massive corporations who are basically sweeping up properties, and they can buy thousands of buildings and thousands of apartments, we're seeing it in England as well as here, maybe there is an argument to say, no, too much, too big, we need to put the brakes on that.
You know, we can't put limits on the free market. And the United States is a free market country where people are free to make money. And I don't believe that corporations control the vast, amount of, or the majority of rental properties. Mostly we're talking about small landlords here who actually make a living out of this.
We're definitely not in New York City or in DC, but there are cases for that, for sure.
In the UK, more and more.
Mamdani is against freedom. The United States is built actually upon free enterprise, free markets, people working hard. Mamdani.
So what is your answer then? Because housing is not affordable. So what is your answer, sir, to make it affordable?
People should live.
People should work harder. People should get more jobs.
People should live where they're able to live.
Okay.
Actually, where they afford the rent.
So if I left DC, I would accumulate other expenses, because I hear this argument all the time.
This is the way the free market works. It's a free country.
The implication of that,
though, wherever you want to.
But you see, what's happened in London because of that is you've got Kensington and Chelsea, Knightsbridge area, Harrods around there, that was traditionally old British money families, is almost entirely Arabic, Russian, Chinese owned properties now. Because the free market has allowed the globalists, and those houses are mainly empty. They're empty. There's nobody living in them. There might be a security guard walks around.
It's a different issue.
I have a problem with that. As somebody that is very much a child of the Thatcher years, I do worry about that because we're not living in the same world as we were when Margaret Thatcher was alive, when it was unfathomable that we lived in a world that was so small that the Russians and the Chinese and the Arabs and the Indians and the Pakistanis would come over from their billion-dollar companies and just sweep up lots of British land. We've got to do something about that now.
I do think that this is a very different issue, actually.
But it's not really.
No, it's not, because
it's
you
about
have
foreign ownership of British property. The Chinese, for example, the Russians. These are dictatorial regimes, the enemies of the United Kingdom. And I think we have to address foreign ownership of British property, especially by those individuals coming from countries that view the UK as a threat. We're practically at war, of course, with both China and Russia on so many levels. We should not allow our enemies to be buying our property. And I do think this is a very important point that you raised, Ben.
Right. Anyway, thank you on that, guys. I'm sure it's got you at home talking as well. gbnews.com/your say. Still to come this evening on The Late Show live at 1:30.
That is why I want you, my fellow San Franciscans, to be the first to know. I will not be seeking re-election to Congress.
After decades of power, this is Nancy Pelosi, a very controversial figure. Her farewell marks the end of an era, maybe the end of the old Washington Capitol-y establishment. We're going to break down what her exit really means for Capitol Hill. Also tonight, a story you don't.
Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed.
Trump's warning to Nigeria. The president says that Christian blood is being spilled by Islamist extremists and he's demanding action. I'm going to be talking to the group at the front line of that fascinating, depressing, awful battle. This is a Late Show Live, only on GB News.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A few showers around this morning, but a lot of dry weather at first before a band of prolonged rain turns up towards the southwest later. And it's a mild day once again, although not quite as mild as the last few days. Initially, showers will affect parts of eastern England. They'll be moving north into northeast England. 1 or 2 showers for western Scotland as well. But actually, it's across Scotland where we've got the best chances. Some sunny spells away from the showers. 1 or 2 breaks in the cloud through the Midlands and the southeast. Temperatures here reaching 16 Celsius. A degree or 2 down on the last few days, but still mild. Meanwhile, we've got a system moving into the southwest as well as South Wales, turning things wet and breezy as we end the afternoon and go into the evening. That's approaching Northern Ireland at first through the evening, but Scotland staying clear with actually some patchy cloud, but otherwise mostly dry weather. Here are the showers that we start the day in the southeast with. They're moving into northeast England, some heavy downpours, but away from there, a few gaps in the cloud, some late clear spells for parts of the Midlands and East Anglia before the rain moves through overnight. And that's going to push into North Wales, the Midlands, Northern Ireland and eventually Northern England, tending to fizzle away, and it starts to clear up across southern parts of the UK. 1 or 2 showers, yes, but otherwise a mostly fine night. A little cooler overnight compared with recent nights. Temperatures actually dipping into the single figures. We've not seen that through much of the week. So a fresh start for many on Saturday, but a bright start for Northern Ireland, much of southern England as well as Wales. Some decent sunshine around. A lot more cloud for Scotland with some showery rain here. Some showers also for Northern Ireland as well as West Wales and the southwest. But towards the east, we keep the sunny skies. It stays dry. It's not going to be quite as mild, but still temperatures above average with highs of 15 Celsius.
Expect warm spells with the odd rude interruption. Boxed Boilers sponsors the weather on GB News.
Christianity is facing an existential threat in Nigeria. Thousands and thousands of Christians are being killed. Radical Islamists are responsible for this mass slaughter. I am hereby making Nigeria a country of particular concern. That's a legal definition. When the Christians or any such group is slaughtered, like is happening in Nigeria, 3,100 versus 4,476 worldwide. What horrible numbers. Something has to be done.
That was President Trump there issuing a fresh warning to the government in Nigeria if it continues to allow the killing of Christians by Islamist militants, including Boko Haram. Now, referring to the group, the president said they've killed over 100,000 people and burned 18,000 churches since 2009. And this year, between January and August, 7,000 Christians have been killed, according to the group Inter-Society. So let's speak to Sean Nelson, Senior Counsel for Global Religious Freedom at ADF International. Sean, so good to see you. These figures are chilling. Why isn't this on the front page of newspapers around the world and leading news bulletins? It's a massacre.
No, and I think it is now because of President Trump's statements. I think that's what was so important about him speaking out. I mean, he tweeted, or truthed, I guess, last Friday and caused a massive stir about this, and then went before the cameras and spoke directly to the Nigerian government, to the entire world about what's really been happening. You're absolutely right. Since 2009, over 100,000 Christians who've been killed. I've been to these villages. In Christmas of 2023, there was 25 villages actually that were attacked in a place called Plateau State, and the first place I visited, it's one of the things that I really remember so strongly from that trip. I met a pastor there. He was the new pastor of the church because Fulani militants had come to his church, burned down the old pastor's home, and beheaded him. And you go to the next village, 17 dead. You go to the next place, another church burned. It's an absolutely shocking thing, and I don't know why people haven't been looking at this. Maybe it's because the numbers are so big. I do get concerned that it's because these people are Christians and there's a Western bias sometimes against Christians. I'm glad that the president is standing up and saying that's not something we're going to turn a blind eye to anymore, and we're going to stand up for the Christians in Nigeria and around the world. Let's have a little look here, Sean. This is you in Nigeria. Let's just play some of this footage.
And I visited 5 largely Christian villages, all attacked over Christmas of 2023 by armed militants. Roughly 200 people were killed in the attacks. The villagers' homes have been set on fire and their farms burned. I met the widows and the orphans and saw the mass graves where many were buried. I saw where one pastor was taken from his home and beheaded.
Probably, if this started in 2009, Muslims or Islamists and Christians had lived peacefully side by side. So what happened?
Well, Boko Haram happened in 2009, and Boko Haram literally means against Western education. They didn't like girls being educated. They didn't like what Christian values or Western values stood for, and they rejected that. Many of the Muslims in northern Nigeria, Nigeria generally, had been a little bit more liberal or moderate. They didn't like that at all, and so they launched a campaign of mass slaughter, and they didn't get it under control, and that continued on and on. About 6 years ago, you had IS influence, Islamic State, West Africa influence. There was battles there. You had that same ideology start moving over to a group called the Fulani, or certain militants within. It's a very large ethnic group, and the government just didn't seem to take this very seriously. They didn't win the battles very much, and what you're seeing now is actually the Fulani militant attacks. That's the majority of what's happening in those videos where we were. That's actually where most Christians are being killed right now, but there's no government response. There's no military. Sometimes they go and they try to make peace deals with the militants, and then the next day somebody gets killed or 17 people get killed. It's every week.
What do you need from President Trump?
Well, what we're looking for is more pressure on the Nigerian government. This pressure has been absolutely phenomenal, and we commend President Trump for his very strong action. The whole administration, Secretary Rubio speaking about it, but we think of 4 things that the Nigerian government needs to do. They need to take this seriously. They've been denying this entirely. They have to stop the denials. They need to get the resources where these Christians are being persecuted. They mostly focused on the Northeast, not really winning that battle, but they need to look at what's called the Middle Belt, where most of those attacks are happening against the Fulani militants.
Second, they need to stop the impunity. They have to arrest people. They have to prosecute people. They have to listen to early warnings. Just last month, there was a pastor gave an early warning for the village. Army said that's fake news. 13 Christians were killed that night in his village. So they have to do that. They need to return the internally displaced persons back to the land that's been stolen from them. You're talking about millions throughout the country that have been displaced for years. And these are horrible conditions where they're at. One of the attacks in June was on internally displaced persons, mostly Christians, in Benue. Over 200 killed. They had gasoline poured on them, were lit on fire. And then last, repeal the blasphemy laws. Nigeria is one of only 7 places in the world with a death penalty blasphemy law. We're actually supporting a case right now at the Supreme Court of Nigeria, the case of actually a Sufi Muslim, Yahya Sharif Aminu, to overturn that awful blasphemy law there. But they can do this right now, and they should.
So you don't want soldiers, you don't want American troops on the ground there to protect the Christians? Not yet?
Well, we're a law firm at ADF International, and so we don't comment on particular military strategy, but they need more resources. And if that is, if the Nigerian government is saying, actually, we're going to recognize this, we need to cooperate, but maybe we need some help, maybe that's the answer. But the
maybe
Christians,
peacekeeping troops, perhaps.
Yeah, but the Christians who are being persecuted right now, they are crying out for help. I'm glad that President Trump has heard them, and I'm looking forward to the next couple days and weeks and years to figuring this problem out and fixing it.
Thank you, Sean. Sean Nelson there, Senior Counsel for Global Religious Freedom at ADF International. Keep us updated on the situation, won't you? Come back anytime. Thank you. Still to come this evening on The Late Show Live.
Oh, £275. Yes! You cheated. You cheated, Jenny. You're a cheat.
That was Little Britain. But for big America, President Trump has told his American citizens they've got to shift those extra pounds in his plan to make America healthy again. He's suggesting, well, he's enacted cheaper weight loss jabs. Is that a wise idea, or does it just mean they've given up on the idea of personal responsibility? This is The Late Show Live, only on GB News. I think President Trump is behind those windows watching The Late Show Live. I like to think he's in bed with his dressing gown on now, flicking through. Do you reckon he is, Niall?
He certainly is. I'm sure he is. Yeah.
Of course he is. Right. Well, President Trump unveiled a deal today with drug makers Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk to expand coverage and reduce prices for the popular obesity treatments Zepbound and Wegovy.
Today I'm thrilled to announce that the two world's largest pharmaceutical manufacturers, Eli Lilly and Novo Nordisk, have agreed to offer their most popular GLP-1 weight loss drug. I call it the fat drug, remember? At drastic discounts. They're very effective drugs.
So these GLP-1 drugs, of course, have surged in popularity for people who struggle with their weight, but they currently cost patients up to $500 a month. Now, under the deal, prices will drop and coverage will widen under Medicare and Medicaid. Now, Trump says that discounts will also be offered directly to cash-paying customers from January 2026 through this new platform, Trump RX. So let's speak now to the director of All About Obesity, Sarah LeBrock. Sarah, thank you so much for joining me. So is this very good news then for people who do want to improve their health and lose weight?
Yeah, absolutely. It 100% is, because what we know about obesity right now is that it is a chronic long-term condition. So for years, we've talked about it being a lifestyle choice, but it absolutely isn't. I'm sat in Atlanta right now because I've just been at the world's biggest obesity congress, and we've learned about all the latest data around obesity. And we now know that it's about people's biology and physiological things happening in their body. It's not about the losing weight, it's about maintaining weight loss. And what these medications do is enable people to lose that weight and then maintain that weight loss, which is something we've never been able to do before. So actually improving access to these medications is going to be life-changing for so many people. And in the US up to now, they've been paying, huge amounts of money for these medications privately, and also through, the insurance companies. So actually this is a huge step forward and a really positive one.
I find it amazing, Sarah, how quickly we've bought into the idea that a drug with side effects is the solution to obesity. But I am even there now, and I am extremely anti-drugs or pharmaceutical interventions unless you absolutely need them. I don't take a paracetamol unless I really need them. I don't give my children anything unless they really, really need it. And when these drugs were first rolled out, I was very much the person saying, come on, where's personal responsibility? Everything comes with it. But I've seen and met and know and care about so many people who have seen significant weight loss. And I'm talking about 2 stone, 3 stone, 4 stone, 5 stone. And I look at them and I think, the risks to your health of being so big, you have mitigated so significantly now by losing these drugs, losing this weight with these drugs. But do we know about the long-term side effects, Sarah? Because I am still concerned about that.
Yeah, and I think it's a normal thing to be concerned about. But yes, we do. So these drugs have been available for nearly 15 years now, the GLP-1 molecule, and it's been used in type 2 diabetes for around 15 years. So yes, it's been used at a lower dose for that time, but we know the molecule for over 15 years. So what we know is that there is there's been no massive safety flags or anything that is concerning. The obesity versions of these medications are slightly higher doses. So we only have around 5 years data around the higher doses at the moment, but it's all showing quite positive, very positive things. In fact, we're seeing that it's actually improving more and more things like dementia, cardiovascular disease, sleep apnea. It's not just about weight loss. And so actually, I think it's a really positive thing. So, but I think it's right to be cautious, because we've had, things in the past, new drugs coming out, and then obviously negative experiences. But what we know is this molecule has been around for over 15 years. So I think we can safely say, it is as safe as we can say, any drug can be. And different people react to it in different ways.
And being morbidly obese is not a safe way to live, as we know. Sarah, thank you so much. Sarah LeBrock there, the director of All About Obesity. And I'd love to hear what you've learned in Atlanta at that conference. So come back and see me again soon, won't you? Let me bring in my panel here, and also let's bring in our Adam Kumas, who is the commentator and comedian who's in London. I've still got Niall Gardner and Angelina Macahay with me here in the studio. Let's talk about fat jabs. Lady and gentlemen, Adam, good idea. I still worry about the implications, but like I say, I've seen so many people who've had success with them.
I think it's fantastic, Bev. I mean, I think Trump should go a little bit further. Free weight loss jabs, free Botox, free hair transplants for your previous guest. Stop the ugly, make America beautiful again. I think it's fantastic.
I mean, you're joking. Obviously, you're taking the mickey a bit, but are you being sarcastic? Do you think it's a move in the right direction to medicate? I think so. I mean,
it's the most American way I can think of getting anyone to lose weight. I mean, we've tried diets, we've tried exercise, we've had fad diets for so long. So all the food is so ultra processed. Why not just get a jab and see if it works? And I think you touched on it earlier. What's worse? Some of the side effects, which could be nausea, a little bit of discomfort, or some of the really serious side effects that we're seeing when people are morbidly obese. And I think, like we said, these drugs aren't necessarily new. They've been around for 15 years. And I think this is, if they are going to make it more accessible, that can only be a good thing, in my mind.
Angelina. Beautiful Angelina.
Yeah, I mean,
can you imagine a situation? Well, I was just going to say, can you imagine a situation in which might be somebody in your life, and maybe there is, that you love, and you look at them and you think you're not healthy, and you might drop dead because your insides are so ruined by how much inflammation you're carrying and how heavy you are. But I also worry about you taking this drug with effects.
Yeah, I mean, I have people like that in my family. I would never, absolutely never recommend this drug. And my mom would probably, if she ever found out I was on this, would probably walk into the studio and kill me right here. No, like this is, my mom was super anti the COVID jab. Personally, I stand differently on that. But look, this is not an FDA approved for weight loss. So is this a good idea for, you know, health benefits? I don't know. I think that if we want to focus on people living healthier, we should focus on, if we want to focus on people living healthier, we should focus on lowering the price of groceries, healthy food in grocery stores, right? The cheap food is the pizza. The expensive food is going to be your fruits and vegetables. What other things we can do is, again, looking at healthcare. We could, for example, extend the Obamacare cap cuts on the open market insurance. Right now, those costs are going up. So I think there's other ways that we can look to make America more healthy than just, you know, pushing the COVID jab, which is ultimately just another cosmetic procedure, which women have enough of those pushed onto them in general, and men too even these days. I mean, look at the entire Trump administration. I'm confident you have to have Botox in order to be on that administration. The fun fact about Botox is it actually kills your empathy over time. So I don't think that this is a good thing to be doing and putting into our bodies, you know?
So none of the above, Niall. You don't look like a man to me, Niall, that would have had Ozempic or Botox, despite your wonderfully smooth complexion. But where are you on this? Should the NHS be doing this in the UK as well? Should we be giving out these drugs for free?
I think that the most important issue here really is individual responsibility, and I do think that certainly at the same time as this announcement today by the Trump administration, I do think the US presidency is overall concerned about making Americans much healthier. That's a good thing. So if you're going to reduce the prices of certain medicines and so on, there should also be a very big emphasis upon personal responsibility, and I think that's the most important factor here in terms of making Americans healthier. It's not the role of the government.
The trouble is,
it's the role of individuals and the decisions that they take.
The trouble is, Adam, that food that makes you fat tastes really, really good.
It does. It's very cheap. It's everywhere.
And therefore, people just lack the will and the ability to exercise personal responsibility.
I would say affordability too is a huge one.
Let me just hear from Adam in London. It's okay. Go on, Adam.
Yeah, but no, it's exactly that. It's affordability too, but also it's not just even if foods were even if like fruits and vegetables were more affordable. Like, do we have this this culture of cooking? Do we have all people working 2 or 3 jobs and they don't have the time to cook it for themselves, and they are just getting the convenient stuff? I mean, I'm sure it's the same in the US with Wonder Bread, but the bread over here, like Hovis and Kingsmill, it's not even traditional. It's not even real bread. It's all sort of like artificially. There's a really good book by Chris Van Talleyrand called Ultra Processed People. The food that we are eating is not traditional food. So I think this is a good thing, and I think, like, you know, no one's going around to force and stabbing people with these jabs. It's going to be a choice at the end of the day whether it's prescribed or whether you can buy it personally. So it just seems like a good solution, and we've had decades now of people being obese. So let's try something else. And the ones who are anti it, they don't have to do it. You know, you try doing the cabbage soup diet again.
I honestly, I can't tell you how many people that I know who are taking these injections, who struggle with their weight for years and are suddenly like a slither of the person that they used to be. I find it absolutely incredible. And of course, Donald Trump has made it more accessible for people today. I just want to say the NHS says that weight loss injections should only be used under medical supervision as part of a wider plan, including diet, exercise, and lifestyle support. You know, that's all very well, but people are still buying them on the internet, Angelina, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, they are. And the thing is, you have to look at Ozempic. It isn't going to necessarily, just because you're skinnier doesn't mean you're healthier, right? You can still eat less of junk food. And, you know, you're not working out.
And move more and move more and move more. And we have to move now because we have come to the end of the show. Thank you to Adam Kumas there in London. Thank you, Niall Gardner. Thank you, Angelina Makahay. And can I just say, I loved your debate on Mamdani. I didn't realise I was going to like the touch paper quite as much as I did there. Really appreciate your contribution. I have done 7 shows in a row, so I'm handing the baton to Ben Leo tomorrow night. Have a lovely weekend from me. See you Monday.
Today, clouds overhead. Total zen within. Boxed Solar sponsors the weather on GB News.
Hello, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the latest update from the Met Office for GB News. A few showers around this morning, but a lot of dry weather at first before a band of prolonged rain turns up towards the southwest later. And it's a mild day once again, although not quite as mild as the last few days. Initially, showers will affect parts of eastern England. They'll be moving north into northeast England. 1 or 2 showers for western Scotland as well. But actually, it's across Scotland where we've got the best chance of some sunny spells away from the showers. 1 or 2 breaks in the cloud through the Midlands and the southeast. Temperatures here reaching 16 Celsius. A degree or 2 down on the last few days, but still mild. Meanwhile, we've got a system moving into the southwest as well as South Wales, turning things wet and breezy as we end the afternoon and go into the evening. That's approaching Northern Ireland at first through the evening, but Scotland staying clear with actually some patchy cloud, but otherwise mostly dry weather. Here are the showers that we start the day in the southeast with. They're moving into northeast England, some heavy downpours, but away from there, a few gaps in the cloud, some late clear spells for parts of the Midlands and East Anglia before the rain moves through overnight. And that's going to push into North Wales, the Midlands, Northern Ireland and eventually Northern England, tending to fizzle away, and it starts to clear up across southern parts of the UK. 1 or 2 showers, yes, but otherwise a mostly fine night. A little cooler overnight compared with recent nights. Temperatures actually dipping into the